And I'm Jordan. We're not historians, just two friends telling each other an event which we have learned about in this given year.
And today we'll each be talking about a topic from the year 1908.
But before we do that, we have another patron.
Woo! What's the person's name?
Stephanie Sanchez from Virginia. And fire.
All right. What tier did she sign up for?
She signed up for tier 2, so that's 2 tier 2 people we have now. Isn't that cool? They're both getting that bonus content, and you can too.
Okay, so what are you starting us off with today, Jordan?
Today, I will be talking about the very first animated cartoonist, Émile Cohl. It's a French name. He's a man. Émile Cohl was a French cartoonist and animator, and is often referred to as the father of the animated cartoon. He premiered his very first animated cartoon called Phantasmagorie, or Phantasmarjorie. Not sure how you pronounce that. Look it up, please. In the year 1908. Speaking of that, I did mispronounce a word from the previous podcast. I think I said maybe 3 times. I said Asiatic rather than Asiatic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I would have pronounced it how you were saying it.
But I knew, it's weird. I get into it and then I need to get muscle memory.
You know how I was actually pronouncing it wrong? I was pronouncing it in my head, Asianic.
Asianic?
Yeah, I just, I
Asiatic.
see words and then...
Well, it's a word we're not very familiar with.
Yeah.
And like we said, we're not historians, so we're learning as we go.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. Nobody called me out on it yet, but before you do, I realized that. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm saying without the T and with an N. What am I doing? So when it comes to Fantasmagorie, I don't know how you pronounce that. I don't speak French. I tried to find out. Couldn't. Sorry.
Oh, you couldn't find anything on
No,
that?
not in that word. So it might be either a compound word or something. I'm not sure what that means or anything. So,
but if you know, let us know.
yeah, email it to us with your voice clip.
Or Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.
So back to Émile Cohl, was born in 1857 as Émile Eugène Jean Louis Courtet.
Wow, he had a lot of names.
A lot of names. Cohl first established himself as a caricaturist, cartoonist, and writer in the 1880s to 1890s. His father was a rubber salesman, and his mother sewed linen. His family usually had to struggle to get money together since he rarely saw his father. In 1863, when he was only 6 years old, his mother passed away. He was sent off to a nice boarding school where he discovered his natural talent of drawing. But then, the Franco-Prussian War from 1870 to 1871 pushed his life in a different direction. His father's factory was forced to close down and Cohl was sent to a less expensive boarding school. His new pastime became working as a political caricaturist in the marionette theaters of, here's another one, Guignol. Guignol. French is like the one language I don't know anything much about. So when it comes to German, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever, I can do that. But French, I'm just so alien to me. I'm sorry. During this war against Prussia, Cohl was able to give people an escape with a little comic relief in these difficult times. He worked several jobs unrelated to his cartoons because money was tough to come by during these times. Even though Cohl was not getting paid for his art, he was always caricaturing as one of his favorite hobbies. In 1878, he became an assistant to André Gille, who was already one of the most famous caricaturists in France. Throughout his life, Cohl remained loyal to his mentor, and even when Gille was institutionalized and deserted by all of his friends, he still remained his friend.
That was nice of him.
Yeah. It was around this time that Émile Eugène Jean Louis Courtet began going by his new pen name, Émile Cohl. Cohl made a name for himself as a young cartoonist when he drew 2 cartoons targeting French President Patrice McMahon. The first one was Aveuglé par accident in 1878, which depicted the president as a beggar posing as being blind. Now the word accident, the only one I could actually say, is a pun. It's a French word, which means accident. So you can imagine, accident. And this referenced the Battle of Sedan in 1870.
Oh, okay.
So a little play on words there. In French, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Accident. I guess that means accident. And this is where France was defeated by Prussia. So President McMahon was present during this battle and didn't like the implication that losing the battle was his fault. During McMahon's presidency, he made it a punishable offense to ridicule him. So on the 11th of October, 1879, what does Cohl do?
What does he do?
Of course, he doesn't care, and he gets fined and put in jail for 10 days.
Oh, for a cartoon?
Yeah. They ridiculed the President McMahon.
Yeah.
Well, Cohl ended up getting the last laugh because in that particular cartoon, it made him famous amongst the French people. And by gum, it put him on the map. People didn't like the president already, so Cohl became a hero. And just 3 months later, President Patrice McMahon resigned in disgrace. Soon, France's new president, Jules Grevy, lifted the censorship and Cohl became a respected member of the Parisian artistic group called the Hydropathes and the chief editor of their magazine Le Hydropathe, which was first published the 28th of October 1879. He had great success in his career and even moved to London in 1888 to learn English and worked for a magazine for almost a decade called Pick Me Up. After his time in London, Cohl moved back to Paris in 1896, where he began his new career as a writer and illustrator. In 1907, a 50-year-old Émile Cohl was walking down the street when he saw a poster from a movie that had clearly been stolen from one of his comic strips.
Oh, no.
So he went into Gaumont Studio and confronted the manager. And in doing that, Cohl was hired on the spot as a scenarist, which is a person who writes a one-page story, ideas for a movie, kind of a,
Okay.
a treatment writer, I guess you could say. And he also became a scriptwriter. It was here in this studio where Cohl created the very first animated cartoon in entertainment history, which would be called Phantasmagory or Phantasmagory. We'll figure it out sometime. Please email it to us. In the year 1908. Now, the way he did this, Cohl drew a single image over a backlit glass and traced over that picture, making slight variations in the movements, the way you'd see a flip book or anything. He figured that out.
Okay.
He came up with that idea. Now, the cartoon consisted of crude stick figure drawings, which morphed into very impressive different objects and people. Like, if you watch the cartoon, you see it. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. Like, you say for then, but for anyone, really.
Yeah, I think we could put a link, right, in the description.
Yeah, we could even probably put it on the YouTube video.
Yeah, I think I could put a link in our YouTube video that could take it to them so they could watch it.
For sure. So it came out to be about 1 minute, 16 seconds long. Now, since chalkboard cartoonists were very popular during this time, Cohl drew these onto white paper using a black pen, then printed each page onto negative film, giving it the illusion it was animated on a chalkboard. So it's got that, negative look. So it looks like white chalk on a black background.
Yeah, I saw it.
So he was inspired by a man named John Stuart Blackton. He was known for his chalkboard cartoons. Now, this cartoon, Phantasmagory, I'm going to change it every time I say it, is widely considered to be the first genuine, fully animated cartoon. It also paved the way for many other films that also released in 1908. So people took this idea and said, I want to make my own cartoon. So when you watch Toy Story 4, this man revolutionized the art of animated cartoons. So in 1910, Cohl joined another film company called Pathé, which I actually mentioned in the episode 1902, when Thomas Talley presents a Pathé film for the very first time in his movie theater, remember?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
The Electric Theater?
Mm-hmm.
So Émile Cohl lived a long and most respected life. The last 2 decades of his life were kind of forgotten since, what he did was a thing of the past, and so many more movies, so many more cartoons came out this time, so he kind of got, left in the dust. But he was still widely respected, and still today. He has a school named after him in Paris and everything, so. Émile Cohl School of Art. So in 1938, Cohl passes away, coincidentally on the very same day as another French film legend, Georges Méliès. He's the creator of The Trip to the Moon. Remember that one I talked about in 1902?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the Smashing Pumpkins influenced one. So he died the very same day as that guy. What a weird coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Rasputin coincidence with, what's his name? Boney M. Remember that guy who died in St. Petersburg on the same day that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's another weird coincidence. He died on the same day as another huge French legend. He revolutionized the film industry, and then this guy revolutionized cartoons.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's my story. What do you have for us today, Merisa?
Today I'll be talking about one of my favorite moments in modern day history.
I think I know what this is.
What?
Your second divorce of 2002.
No.
Okay, what is it?
Today I'm going to be talking about the Tunguska Event. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you what happened, and then I'm going to tell you the theories that scientists have proposed over the decades. And then I'm going to tell you the really out there theories. And there's one that I think you'd like in particular, and I'll save that one for last.
All right.
So the largest asteroid impact in recorded history happened in the early morning on June 30th, 1908, in a very remote area of Siberia, Russia.
Is that the one that killed the dinosaurs?
Was there anyone there to record when the dinosaurs died?
Anyone? I'm sure. Continue, sorry.
The explosion happened over the eastern Siberian taiga. And I'm not trying to sound hip.
I know, like taiga.
Okay. It's spelled Taiga. And it's what we would call a snow forest. So,
do we call it a snow forest?
it's a forest with a bunch of snow in it. Like, it's very remote and harsh. And
Okay.
it happened above Siberia's Podkamennaya Tunguska River in what is now Krasnoyarsk Krai. The blast flattened an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 830 square miles or 2,150 square kilometers. To give you an idea of how large that is, San Antonio, Texas is 465 square miles, and Houston, Texas is 669 square miles.
So it's bigger than both.
Yeah, it's bigger than both of them.
Wow.
Witnesses reported seeing a fireball, a bluish light, nearly as bright as the sun, moving across the sky, followed by a flash and a sound similar to artillery fire.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? They said the earth trembled and windows smashed in the nearest town over 35 miles away. Residents there even felt the heat of the blast, and some were blown off their feet. Hundreds of reindeer were reduced to charred carcasses, and as far as they know, there was no human casualties, but it's a remote area, so...
I was looking at pictures that you showed me earlier. So that hole, that big circle, is bigger than Houston.
Yeah, you're viewing it from an aerial.
I know. I was thinking it was like from... Like, it looked like the size of a pond from the picture I saw. But no, this is huge.
That's
like
huge, yeah.
Wow.
No. That hole could be smaller than Houston, but the trees, they were all flattened.
Oh, so the impact.
Yeah, the impact. The trees were all flattened in an area of 830 square miles.
Wow. Okay.
So that hole might actually be smaller, the one you saw.
I saw. Okay.
Yeah,
I get
so-
you.
You get what I'm saying? Okay. The site wasn't actually investigated until 1927 by Leonid Kulik, and he was a Russian mineralogist. And the reason why nobody was able to investigate earlier, as we said in the episode of 1905, Russia was going through an uprising and a lot of political revolutions were happening. So they unfortunately didn't have time to go and investigate this. So it was almost 20 years later when Kulik was able to go investigate the site. And he was, as I stated, a mineralogist, and he studied rocks, gems, and other minerals, including their chemical and crystalline structures. So he wasn't just some random person like, I'm going to go see what's going on over there. He knew what he was looking for. So when Kulik got there, almost 20 years later, the damage was still immediately apparent. So like if you walked up on it, you'd be like, oh my God, what happened? Like it was still that obvious. He found trees flattened in a butterfly shape, but he became puzzled because there was no impact crater. Like the one in Arizona. You've seen that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there wasn't anything like that to indicate an asteroid impact. So now I'm going to get into the theories. As I just stated, Kulik was puzzled because there was no impact crater. Well, he also didn't find any meteor fragments. At least none lying about. You know, you would expect a meteor that broke up like that there'd be plenty of evidence of that. But he believed that the fragments may have been buried since it was almost 20 years since the blast happened. And that area is very swampy with soft soil. So it's easy for the rocks to submerge. So that's a possibility. And in 2013, researchers from the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine analyzed microscopic samples of rocks collected from the 1978 investigation. And these samples were from a layer of decayed vegetation dating back to 1908. And the samples did turn out to be from a meteor. But some people argued that tiny fragments of meteors are always entering the Earth, So it's what a shooting star is.
Yeah.
So they couldn't say definitively that those fragments were from that explosion, because a shooting star could have happened in 1908 and got buried in the soil. So the next theory is that the explosion was from a comet. Comets are made of dust and ice, so unlike meteors, there wouldn't be pieces of it left. It would evaporate before that. So as our atmosphere would be destroying the comet, that energy that it's creating, it has to go somewhere. And scientists believe that all that energy was the explosion. And it caused it without making a crater or leaving pieces of it behind.
So it kind of evaporated into, like sandstone, just smashed into nothing?
Yeah, because it's made of dust and ice, so...
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the next theory, it's actually from a recent peer-reviewed paper, like maybe a year or two ago. And it's from researchers by the Siberian Federal University, which was led by astronomer Daniil Krennikov. And in their paper, they stated that the explosion likely didn't come from an icy object like a comet or a rock body object like a meteor, because they both would not have survived to reach the point where a blast like that can cause as much damage as it did. So they would break up and evaporate before it reached that distance to cause that damage.
Mm-hmm.
But they did state that an iron body object has much more resistance to breaking down compared to the rock and the ice object. But they don't believe it actually impacted the Earth. Their theory is a large iron asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere and skimmed the planet at a relatively low altitude before flying back into space. This could have produced the effects of the Tunguska Event by producing a shockwave that devastated the surface. So as it came into our atmosphere, it skimmed us and then flew right back out, but all that energy could have created all that damage.
Yeah, that's like a giant iron bullet penetrating the surface of the atmosphere. Like just skimming through, right? Is that what you're saying?
Like
just...
if a bullet grazed your arm?
Yeah.
Like there would still be damage to your arm?
But not, like, it wouldn't be like the bullet going in you.
Yeah.
Got you.
There'd be no proof of a bullet hitting you. You understand?
Yeah, because I don't think an iron asteroid would break up at all. Not with the Earth's atmosphere. It would have to have some sort of impact. And even then, I think the Earth would be more susceptible to break than the iron giant ball.
Yeah, I think it would stay in formation and actually cause a crater. An iron asteroid.
Yeah, I think it'd destroy
rock.
the Earth. I mean, how big is this meteor?
I think I read it. They believed it's as tall as a 5-story building.
Whoa, okay.
That's
and
what
it's
they
solid
believe.
Iron, yeah.
But they don't know for sure. It's just estimates based on the information they have.
Okay, so it created a shockwave, and that would have made the impact in that one area.
Yeah, that's correct. They did note that their research did have some limitations. Like for one, they did not deal with the problem of the formation of the shockwave. So the way the shockwave happened, it's not in line with the iron object being flung back into space.
Yeah, that's an incredible sight, seeing that picture and knowing now how big it is.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do you know if they're doing anything with that land now? Is it being surveyed or?
I think researchers they've gone over the years, but I think it's still pretty harsh, especially in winter. I don't know if anyone could live there. The next theory, it's a strange theory, but it's still in the realm of science. And it's from astrophysicist Wolfgang Kundt at the University of Bonn in Germany. And what he and others have suggested that an eruption of natural gas from kimberlite, which is a kind of volcanic rock best known for sometimes holding diamonds, could be to blame for this. He stated it would come from the molten earth some 3,000 kilometers deep or 1,864 miles deep. The natural gas would be stored as a fluid that deep, and when it reaches the surface, it'd become a gas and explode by a factor of 1,000 in volume for a huge explosion. For support, he cited how the pattern of the trees fell, as well as the chemical anomalies within the trees. Mm-hmm. And I tried looking at a paper to see what anomalies he was talking about, because he did have the chemical composition of those trees, but for some reason I wasn't able to read it. Like whenever I tried clicking on it, it just wouldn't pop up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that one's my favorite. One of the science ones, I think that one's my favorite.
Yeah, it's like anything just mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Grand Canyon of Russia.
So we're gonna get into the wild, outlandish theories.
All right.
So the first one is UFO crash. You seen the huge circle it left?
It's a huge circle. I would think if there was a giant mothership like there are in movies, then that would be about the size of it and the shape of it.
And then the chemical composition of the trees.
Radiation.
Yeah.
Possible, but unlikely. But then again, you talked about the where it sounded like gunshots, right?
The artillery fire.
Okay, so wonder where that sounds like more like an explosion than something coming down quietly.
Yeah, that's true. Alrighty, and the next one is the antimatter theory. Some people believe that for some reason in this remote part of Russia, matter and antimatter collided. And we know what happens when they collide. They annihilate each other and cause an explosion. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but of course there's no evidence for it.
That one's a stretch.
Yeah, it is. The next one is a black hole zipping through the earth.
All right. I'm going to say no to that one.
Because I would think that we would get like sucked in.
Yeah, the Earth would swallow itself and then everything around it, the moon. We wouldn't have anything. You can't have a black hole on Earth. Anyway.
What, doesn't the Hadron Collider make tiny black holes?
I don't know. I know nothing of that subject. Except I don't think a black hole can exist on Earth. Vortex, maybe.
I have no idea. Okay, and the last one, drum roll please. The Tesla death ray.
All right.
As you well know of Tesla's history and him being known as a mad scientist, some people believe he had become convinced his wireless electricity transmitter could be used as a weapon, able to transmit an electrical wave through the earth of such intensity it could destroy a target hundreds of miles away.
Now, I did talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
In
what is it, the Wardenclyffe Tower?
Yes, the Wardenclyffe Tower and the New Yorker Hotel. But he never used it. He never put it into existence. He talked about it.
Not that you know of.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Because he did write to the New York Times on March 19th, 1907, that his wireless torpedo was working because the Times had accused him of not producing any practical results. So he got upset about that and wrote to them stating that his machines do have results and that he showcased it to people. And he actually stated that projecting wave energy to any particular region on the globe, his machines are able to do that. I mean, that's just what he said. Nobody knows for sure. No, there's no proof of it. And the theory states that once he shot it off and saw the damage that he had done, he dismantled the death ray so it can never be used. But how would he find out about the damage? It's not like it's on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's even people in Russia who didn't know about it.
Yeah, but people weren't talking about it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to dismiss that one too.
All right, that's it for the theories. Which one do you most agree with?
I'm going to go with the iron bullet theory or the volcanic eruption because the way it looks very volcanic.
Yeah, and I'll put pictures of it on our social media and as well as the YouTube video.
Yeah, the picture looks insane.
Yeah, I would go with the gas one, the natural gas one.
Yeah?
Yeah. Isn't that one the one you just said?
The volcanic explosion? Mm-hmm. Because it definitely looks like either a huge impact or an explosion. Now, the iron shockwave thing, that would be a huge shockwave.
Oh, yeah, and that reminds me, you know how in 2013 or 2014, again in Russia, you know how that asteroid came in?
I do remember seeing someone...
And the shockwave and the windows breaking and everything?
Yeah, from the dash cam. There was a big green one, right? Yeah, I remember seeing that one, yeah.
No, this was during the day.
Yeah, no, I saw that one. It was dash cam footage of it. There's a giant green...
It wasn't green.
Oh.
You're talking about another one. I think another one happened like a couple of years later.
Yeah.
This one was a different one. And the scientists were kind of baffled by it because according to their data and models, that size of an asteroid should not have caused that much damage. So there's still so much we don't know about on how asteroids affect Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, we need to have asteroids coming in at regular rate to really measure the damages they can create.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't exist. So
exactly. So, I mean, there isn't enough science.
And that's my story. What else happened in 1908?
Oh, this one I'm excited about. In 1908, Paith invented the newsreel that is shown in cinemas prior to the feature film. So I know all about that because I used to put the advertising trailers on before the actual trailers. So you have the little ads and then you have the trailers. So the film company I mentioned earlier today on my topic, and 1902, Paith, French company, did that in 1908.
All right, on January 12th, a long-distance radio message is sent from the Eiffel Tower for the first time.
In July of 1908, the Summer Olympics were held in London, originally scheduled to be in Rome, but changed due to the Mount Vesuvius eruption of 1906.
On February 18th, the American ambassador to Japan is given a note by the Japanese in which they agree to restrict Japanese immigration to the U.S. This becomes known as the Gentleman's Agreement.
The Young Turk Revolution, from the Committee of Union and Progress, issues a formal ultimatum to Sultan Abdul Hamid II to restore the constitution of 1876 within the Ottoman Empire, and is restored the following day.
On July 6, Robert Peary's Arctic expedition sails from New York City for the North Pole.
Well, that's all we have for 1908.
We'll see you in 1909.
Bye.